What's up, y'all? You're watching Brooklyn Shuffleboard, and you're about to watch the finals of the Mirror Lake Championship. We have Paul versus Crystal in the finals. This is Paul's third year in a row of making the finals. He won 2 years ago, and Crystal just won 2 national tournaments in the last 2 months. I am expecting a lot of fireworks. This is going to be an amazing, amazing match. And to learn about shuffleboard strategy commentary, I invited my friend Sean here to join me on commentary. He has never played shuffleboard before. He barely knows the rules. He's going to be asking all of the questions that you're probably wondering about at home. It's going to be great. Sean, what are you sort of expecting from the players out here?
I have no idea, but I'm having fun. I have no idea.
He has no idea. It's going to be a blast. Subscribe if you haven't already, and get ready for a great match. All right, we're about to kick this thing off. We're doing best 2 out of 3, 12-frame games. This is the second game of those 2 out of 3. It is the elimination game. Paul won the first one in decisive fashion. He was up about 20 or so going into the last frame. But I'm not really sure if yellow might be favored on this court a little bit because of the drift. So it'll be really interesting to see if Crystal, with her back up against the wall, can take advantage of that and get this win. I am joined here by Sean, as mentioned.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, Sean is here to really ask a lot of the questions that some of the newer people to shuffleboard are wondering at home. So yeah, this will be like a really special one-off episode, hyper-educational for the new players. And just off the bat, Paul, he did not really make any mistakes in the first game, and he tried to clear that yellow out and whiff to the right.
Yeah, he played great in the last game.
It was like unreal, right?
Yeah, he played really well.
Absolutely. So Crystal's trying to score a 7 or an 8 on the right there, have it be tucked right behind that yellow disc up front, and she gets that nicely. That was really, really nice. Yeah, I think crowd is sort of a little bit split because there's some same people that know Crystal a lot. Also, everyone just always wants a third game, of course. But then Paul with the Brooklyn Royal Palms connection, also sort of a crowd favorite. So this is one of those matches where you love both people and you don't really know who to root for.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is my second game I've seen live. The last was the ISA World Champions, where your wife, Missy the Missile Keiko.
Missy the Missile Keiko, baby.
Yeah, that was really amazing. Amazing to see. And, I just assumed when you would tell me about this, it was just like some hobby in New York to hang out with your friends. And then I came down and I saw how excited everyone was, and I'm like, I can kind of get into this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is fun. Like, being at the Royal Palms, too, there's like just energy there on playoff day. That's really amazing. And then it's replicated here a little bit on this March Mirror Lake Championship tournament. Yeah, like the grandstands are packed. There's probably like 60 people here watching this match.
Now, how many people were originally in this?
It was a little bit under 200 people.
Okay.
And yeah, down to these two. You kind of had to go 6-0 or 5-1 to make it in. And this is a huge shot here. Paul needs this hammer just to equalize it. Okay, great.
Nice shot, Paul. Nice. So no.
So Crystal had the really nice hide there, and then she blocked it up. So Paul just sort of like not really chasing that hidden disc. He said, all right, I'm going to go for the high percentage shot, just score on the open court.
Now, how many points was that shot that Paul just had? Was it 10?
No, so that's 7. So
that's 7, okay.
Yeah, the tip of the triangle. So in Brooklyn, we have like the numbers painted.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So the tip of the triangle is 10 points.
Okay.
And then the 2 boxes closer to us are 8 and 8.
All right.
And then 7 and 7 are the larger boxes. And then that isosceles 4-sided shape. I don't know what that is. I don't know why I'm using the word isosceles.
Sure.
That's the -10.
Yeah.
So it's called the kitchen. If you hear
correct.
like the phrase like, oh, he's going to try to kitchen her, that means
so I've
knock
seen
her
where it says
into
like
the kitchen.
10 off as far as like the place you play in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 10 off your score. So if you're like, oh, he's trying to kitchen her, it means like, we use it as a verb, it means trying to knock her into the -10.
Now I'm assuming the majority of these people predominantly play indoor. So what would you say is the difference as far as speed? What would you say is the difference between indoor and outdoor?
Yeah, there's like, there's really like a couple levels. There's like, one level is bar shuffleboard, where they don't put glass beads on the court. So that's like the Royal Palms, Brooklyn, Chicago. There's a couple other bars. There's one in Cleveland. There's one in Virginia Beach. They're opening one in Michigan, actually. There's
nice.
one in Lansing. I'm really excited for that one because it's near where Missy's family's from.
Oh, that'll be
There's another one in like Wisconsin. And there's one in Tampa. Can't forget about Tampa Shuffle. So they don't put beads down, and you got to like push pretty hard on the disc as Crystal's clearing really nicely. Then there's here where they put glass beads on, but it's outside, and you can see the disc like really just glide down the court.
Yeah, they're really going smooth.
So you gotta shoot with like only 1/3 the amount of force to score. And then there's courts indoor that are glass beads that are very, very similar to this, maybe a teeny bit faster. No wind because it's indoors. And then there's courts in California and Arizona which are like super slick, where you barely push.
Well,
and hold on one sec. So
yeah,
Crystal, she had 2 really nice clears in a row, and then she sticks that one. So you see Paul's kind of like on her side.
Sure.
He's trying to imagine where on the court he can score, where that yellow disc is going to be in
Blocking
the way of the disc
correct.
he shoots.
Yeah.
So this is like, whenever you have a hide opportunity, it's my favorite part of shuffleboard. It is a way of stealing someone's hammer, it's called.
Sure.
So let's see if we can get this. Looks pretty good. Maybe curving left a little bit. Curve left a teeny bit and clip the block.
He's in. Okay.
And he ends up with a 7.
Yeah.
But Chris, they say a score without a block isn't really worth all that much.
Sure.
Because he could have a score, but she could just knock it right out because there's no block in the way. So this is the final shot of the frame, Crystal's hammer. So let's see if she can get this real quick. Looks pretty good. And she gets it and almost gets the kitchen. So really nice 7 from Crystal. Yeah, so that, I mean, Crystal doesn't feel good about that frame. She missed one clear, but kind of got bailed out a little bit by Paul missing the hide, and she was able to get 7 on the hammer and gain 7 points. So now it's 14 yellow, 7 black after 2 frames.
So I'm assuming, it's definitely a huge, like, I don't even know the word for like a learning curve if you're so used to playing indoor all the time and then you come down here and play outdoor. I assume it takes a ton of practice and like warming up.
Absolutely, man. The first time I came down, I think we were visiting you guys,
Yep.
And we did a couple nights here. We weren't playing a tournament, and the first 12 discs I shot were just like straight out the back. Like I couldn't even keep it on the board. Because in Brooklyn, your shooting form is like this like lunge forward where you're putting a lot of your body weight like moving forward.
Right.
And here, if you do that, you're not going to be able to control the power. So here it's so much like your shooting form, you take smaller steps. You're really mindful of your center of gravity being over your feet. And you like, unless you're clearing, you like barely push it.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time. But with that said, we had a bunch of Brooklyn players do really, really well this tournament. We had like Joan Ann from the Palm Pilots. She went 5-1 or undefeated. No, she went 5-1. Just like really a lot of players, like really amazing. Really amazing play. Like Paul went undefeated. Mike Brady playing for 3rd place right now on court 2. On court 3, he went undefeated. Doug Voss went undefeated. A couple of Chicago people went undefeated. This was a year where like half of the top 16 or more were Brooklyn and Chicago Royal Palms players.
Is there any outdoor, as far as, you mentioned a lot of people from Chicago and obviously Brooklyn. Is there a lot of outdoor in there or no?
Outdoor where? In New York?
Yeah.
No, not really.
No?
We over COVID when like the lockdown when the Palms was shut. Ooh, as Paul kind of misses a clear there. I found some courts to play in that were in a park in Middle Village, and there's actually this community of like 70 and 80-year-old people that have been playing there weekly. Actually, hold on one sec. So I'll put a pause in that. Crystal's like making a decision here. So Paul couldn't clear it. That is something that she's going to use to go down the alley and try to hide behind, but it's a really hard shot. Yeah, she doesn't get it. Almost knocks him into the 10.
Almost.
But that honestly, that's like, I actually really like that strategy from Crystal. Rather than just continuing to block up the board, she wouldn't have been able to block up both sides. She said, hey, I need to be a little aggressive. I'm going to go down the alley and try to hide behind that rather than just like hope Paul screws up. Missed the shot, but I think definitely still the right shot
What do you
selection.
think Paul's going to do here?
He's just going to score on the open court on the 8 on the right.
Okay.
Looks pretty good, and it gets in there.
Nice.
That's great. So it's 14 yellow, 15 black after 3. Paul must feel really good about that. Yeah, this community of older people, they were so excited when I biked out to play with them. They didn't know anyone else in the world played shuffleboard.
Well, the real interesting thing is, from somebody who's just not familiar with it, you always see it in like 55 and up communities, and it's usually seniors. And in this crowd, you take a look around, it's a much younger. I mean, it's mixed, but it's a much younger than anyone could really imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really great observation. This is like the birthplace of what I kind of call like the youth revolution in shuffleboard. I mean, I'm 40, so I'm not like young,
right.
But it really is. They started in the mid-2000s doing this thing called a Friday Night Shuffle, where it's just open to the public. They're playing like Talking Heads right now. Like they just play like good music. You could BYOB, and a bunch of people would come, and just like young people would come and play shuffleboard, learn the game a little bit. And then the Royal Palms, which opened in 2014, they sort of saw what was going on here, the owners, Jonathan and Ashley, and they were like, you know what, this would kill in Brooklyn. Like if you like Brooklyn Bowl this thing where it's rent the courts by the hour, you have like really good cocktails and beer, you have food trucks come in as Crystal sticks to clear, and that's what they did. They opened in 2014, and then the Chicago Palms opened in 2018, I believe, 2017 or 18, I think 18, and it's just like a continuation of this like shuffleboard youth movement. And now some of the best players in the world, like the people playing here, are younger people. The people that won the national tournament, Crystal and Mark, like younger people, not really that 55 and up sort of thing that you think about when you think of retirement home shuffleboard. All right, so Paul goes for the height again and can't get it a second time. He gets the 7, but he made the exact same mistake he made the last time. Where
because she's just going to go and knock it out.
Exactly. He was going for it, and he knocked into the block instead of hiding behind it. Okay. So he must be pretty disappointed that he made that mistake. But this one looks a little bit off, actually. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
She misses to camera left, and she rolls herself in the kitchen.
So are they both
rough.
in the kitchen?
No, Paul's touching the line on the right. Yeah,
right.
You can't really see on camera because Larry's head's in the way. But Larry with the beautiful gray ponytail, long flowing locks. Larry Hart, one of my favorite people in the league community here. He's does a lot of the disc seasoning, setting up, prepping for tournaments here at like 6 a.m.
Nice.
He's the best. I love Larry. Shout out to Larry. But she's in the kitchen. And what Paul's thinking now is, how do I make it so she can't clear herself out of the kitchen?
Okay.
And what you do is you block that up.
Which you just did beautifully.
Yeah, so the one thing he didn't really do is like look at it directly from her side of the court.
Okay,
but honestly,
she can
to
still
me,
squeeze right through that
I think she can still squeeze right through it, and she's going for it, and yeah, she gets it nicely. She's on the back line, so that's not in the kitchen.
So she's out. All right.
And yeah, I think with Paul like blocking it up the right shot. But it's so hard to like block it up perfectly, and he was just like a hair too far to the right.
So one thing I just observed on that last one, now that line down the center, if you were in any other of the areas, it wouldn't have counted, but since it's in the kitchen, it doesn't matter if you're on that line.
Oh, that triangle?
The straight line, if you will.
Yeah. So that triangle in the kitchen only really separates where yellow starts from and where black starts from. Paul looked like he was maybe trying to bump that into the 10, but either way, he ends up with a board that's like pretty blocked up. And Crystal looks like she's going down the left side here, which is not going to be easy, especially with that mental sort of like backstop there. She doesn't want to kitchen herself. Yeah, so she doesn't get it. Okay, so that's an example of like, you don't have the hammer. That is kind of an ideal situation for Paul, right? He didn't have a hidden disc, but there's still 2 discs in the way that are making it so Crystal's hammer is much harder than if it was a wide open board. And sometimes that's what it is. You just try to make it as hard for your opponent, cross your fingers and hope they miss, and that's exactly what happened there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that triangle that we were talking about, so yellow shoots from the left side and black shoots from the right side, camera left, camera right.
Correct.
And that triangle is like the most important line in shuffleboard, because that is the fact that people start at different spots creates all of these series of angles where if there's a disc up front, one person can like access certain points of the board that the other person can't access because that disc up front's in the way. So like that is what we call a Tampa pilot.
Yeah,
Pilot's just your first shot.
Actually, I was going to ask a question about that because maybe a lot of people that are watching right now aren't familiar with Florida as far as the geography. The terms to St. Pete and to Tampa, first of all, where did that originate? Obviously, Florida, probably.
Yeah.
But like, how is that just a nickname, or has that been a thing for a long time? Or so, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, great question. So this is like the birthplace of shuffleboard. This club has been open for 100 years. Like literally, this is their 100th anniversary this year. Shout out Missy, who designed this like amazing logo for them for their 100th year anniversary.
That's great.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Also, a really sweet pin. But yeah, this club's been open for 100 years, so a lot of the terms are related to St. Pete. And St. Pete and Tampa on opposite ends of whatever that body of water is in between them. Do you know what that is or no? The Bay?
The
Bay. Tampa Bay. Probably Tampa Bay.
I really should know that. I've been living here for like 12 years, and it's minutes from my house.
I'm
and
just
I'm like, I don't know.
quizzing you on local geography things that do make you look ridiculous.
Oh, God.
So, all right, so Paul clears hard and gets it clear. So, yeah, opposite sides of the Bay. So both of those things, a Tampa and a St. Pete on the court, are like blocks that work out well for you that your opponent can't really hide behind very well. As Crystal goes with a deep 10. But it's amazing because it's like spread. Like when Missy and I played in Japan, these people that don't speak English are like, nice Tampa.
That's
nice
really amazing.
Which is like amazing.
I'm,
It's so cool.
I'm shocked. I just assumed it was like a...
It's just a part of like the strategy. It's a Tampa. That's the word for it.
Yeah.
All right, so Paul here with a difficult hammer has to hit this straight on. And he rolls left.
No.
Oh, that's so rough. So that's like another thing. So the last frame, Paul without the final shot just sort of like created a clogged up board and hoped that the opponent missed. Crystal in that situation, the board wasn't clogged up and she went for what's called a high 10.
Okay.
So basically you're putting a disc in a 10 and you're trying to get it so it's so close to the tip of the 10 so your opponent can't hit it straight on and score. The reason why that's a great shot is because even if you missed the high 10 like she did, it was like a deep 10.
Okay.
Paul could have hit that straight on and scored. As the crowd, I think the crowd is cheering for 5th and 6th place competitors, I think. Derek from Chicago. But yeah, so she overshot it and it was a deep 10 and he could have hit it straight on, but with the beads and there being not a lot of friction, you have to like really nail it perfectly and hit it directly on, which is not an easy thing to do. And there you go, like Paul missed. Like he had the open shot, but he missed. So going for that high 10, a great strategy because even if you miss, it's still hard for your opponent. All right, so Paul put up a really nice St. Pete. That's sort of like, I think that's kind of perfect placement. I think perfect placement is maybe like 6 inches or so to the left.
Okay.
Because Crystal could go down the alley, but I actually really like putting him there. And there you go, Crystal missed the clear. It turned into kind of a perfect St. Pete. And now Paul is looking at it from her side, and he's going to try to hide an 8 or a 7. So where would you say is like the best spot for him to put his disc? Where it would be blocked up? Let me quiz you again.
I mean, obviously, the way that where she would be shooting from, which is this where he's going.
I can't see. He missed it. Captain Scott making an appearance with the bottle of Malort. Let's go. Yeah, Malort. If you haven't had Malort, it is the most delicious liqueur on the planet.
Oh,
the flavor tastes something like I would say like hydrochloric acid probably. Like some sort of used tire. Anyone else here? Quick poll in the audience. What does Malort taste like? Pencil shavings. Bug spray.
You guys are really selling it.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I think their slogan is like, when you want to unfriend someone in real life, buy them a shot of Malort.
Oh my.
But I think it's delicious. I think my favorite part about it is definitely the flavor. All right, so Paul tries to knock her out in Kitchener. His disc curved to the right, which I actually saw happen to her disc in the first game, a couple of them. And he didn't leave her in, but he kind of left her on the board. But this is actually an interesting setup because she could knock her own disc on the 8-7 line.
Right.
That's no score. She could knock that into a 7 and have 2 scores on, an 8 and a 7. But if she misses, Paul can do the same thing. He could knock his disc on the center line and get 2 8s out of it.
I mean, obviously, easier said than done as well.
Easier said than done, but it's like kind of, you're trying to read like, when you're choosing shot and she goes for the split and comes up a little short,
Okay.
Still probably happy with it because it's hard to get out because of that backstop there on the 8-7 line.
But he's clearly going to just go for it and try and knock hers out as opposed to trying to pick up points himself.
I think that's what I would do. I'd probably hit it hard, try to clear both those yellows out. But he may try to do a finesse shot. Honestly, what I think he's going to do, I think he might try to put a disc in between the yellow and the black, split himself into 2 8s,
Okay.
and knock hers out. Just knowing Paul likes fancy shots. But that's what you're thinking about. When you're choosing shot selection, you're trying to think about all the different ways the frame can play out, and then choose what is most likely to work well for you. I called that shit, didn't I?
You did call.
Let's go Paul, baby.
Yeah, I think he's definitely happy with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's exact. I thought he wanted the 2 8s left and right, but I have no idea. But still, really, really nice shot. And now Crystal has a very difficult shot to sort of salvage her hammer. She has to hit one black into the other, try to keep hers in the 8, shooting it pretty hard. And she only gets 1 out.
Okay.
So Paul ends up with the 7. It's Crystal's hammer frame. She had the last shot of the frame. That's called having the hammer frame. And he scored. So that's what we call stealing a hammer. You're basically scoring on your opponent's hammer. Because when you have the hammer the last shot of the game, you're kind of expected to score. Kind of like in tennis where you have the serve and you're expected to win that game.
Right.
It's like that. So he stole the hammer by scoring when it was her hammer frame. Really, really nice frame. So there's 6 frames left. Paul's up 8. They both have the same number of hammers left. So Paul has like a pretty solid advantage here. Definitely a close game, but he must be feeling good with 6 frames left, being up 8. Yeah, so what would you do? So Crystal's up first here, right?
Okay.
You're down 8. There's 6 frames left, so there's a lot of time. What do you think is going through her head right now?
Well, try and get as much points as possible, and try and block him, really, because he's been picking up a lot of points. My strategy would be, obviously, to get points, but to block him because he's really been just putting it where he wants it.
Yeah, that's kind of it. You want to keep putting up blocks. You want to maybe get a hide opportunity if you can't clear it. Other people might shift to the strategy of trying to like put up a point and knocking your opponent into the -10. But I don't think you need to do that yet. I think you kind of stick with the game plan. Paul has missed a couple clears, so hope he does that again, and you have an opportunity to basically do exactly what Paul did and steal a hammer. So that might be in. Larry's going to take a look at it. Larry's going to take a really good look. He's taking off his sunglasses.
He's really getting in there.
And he calls it in. He's really getting
right.
in there, yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to look down the edge of the disc at like a 90-degree angle to see if it's in or not. Paul, really nice clear. Clearing hard and clearing well. All right, so she's going for another Tampa. She's not switching to the kitchen game yet. That one carries deep. Actually, maybe she was going for the 8-8 line. I'm not sure. Yeah, she goes on the 8 line, so a lot of people do that because it's harder to clear your own disc off.
Okay.
He can clear her disc off, but for his disc to get all the way off the board, it's further distance for it to travel, so more likely for him to stay in and have her be able to knock him in the -10. That's what she was thinking. And then for the final shot, going for what appears to be like a high 8, which is kind of what I was talking about with the 10, but she was going for the 8. And she does not get it, so Paul has a wide open board on the right side.
Yeah, it's wide open.
And an opportunity to
she's
take
really
this
not
lead
blocking
to
anything
15 or
here.
16. I mean, she blocked one side, but you can't block both sides with one disc,
Yep.
And Paul was clearing really well. So yeah, let's see if he can get this. Spread this lead to 15 or 16. It looks a little soft. Oh, tell me that's in, baby. Tell me that's in. He doesn't. His body language says that he doesn't think it's in.
Yeah, from here it doesn't look like it.
Oh, he's taking the glasses
really
off.
getting in there again.
Let's go, Larry!
I mean, he still doesn't know by now?
I mean, you got to really look.
That's amazing.
He calls it in, and the crowd is going wild.
Wow.
The Royal Palms supporters in this crowd here, there's probably like 40 of us, and they want to see a Royal Palms champion. Oh, she's going to look at it. So she might have the ability to actually request the second and third call. I think that's what she's thinking. Yeah, she's looking. If it's close, she's going to request the second call. And it's good, yeah.
Okay.
She's saying that's obviously good. Why did you spend so much time taking your sunglasses off and looking at it?
Yeah.
Clearly that's in, Larry. Why are you making this so dramatic?
Well, it's a big game,
It is a big game. All right, more nicknames. What does Malort taste like? Shout it out.
Ass. Gas.
Gas. Burnt tires, we already got that one.
All right.
Anyone else? Not flowers. Doesn't taste like flowers.
Wood. Straight wood.
Crushed dreams.
Ass.
Bug spray, I said. Hairspray, did not say hairspray.
It's just amazing that every single thing that was mentioned doesn't sound very appetizing.
But they love it. They love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's delicious. Who? I had my first Malort down here, actually. 2021. We drove down because for this tournament because it was pre-vaccine and we didn't want to fly.
Oh, yeah.
So Paul and I drove down here.
Oh, I remember that.
Like insane
Yeah.
people.
I remember you telling me
And a
about
bunch
this.
of Chicago people did the same thing. Or a couple of them flew because they were like essential workers and they had the vax or whatever. But it was like me and Paul getting to know the Chicago crew. We had a blast. It was like kind of the start for me of creating this like Royal Palms cross-city friendship. And that's really what this tournament's all about. Like, people want to win, obviously, but this tournament's more about the community behind it and, like, getting together, sharing a love for this weird game. that we're
Yeah,
all
it's
kind of
really
obsessed
amazing.
with.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's really all about the community and the friendships.
Yeah, I've noticed everybody, when I first got here, everyone is in an incredible mood. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's just rooting for each other, and It's neat.
Yeah, it's really a special place. And like even rooting for like people they don't know. You know what I mean? Like if you have like a crowd favorite from St. Pete, they like kind of know her, but she's making a deep run. You're like, yeah, I want her to win. She's amazing.
There was some
She's so
guy
great.
earlier playing. I don't know where he went. But
Paul, it's like Paul went for the clear and missed it and knocked her all the way to the left in the 7. So this is like kind of the chance that Crystal needs to come back here because she's down 16. Remember she was down 8 last time.
Yeah.
So if she could like block this up and score her hammer, she's going to get 2 points and potentially, bring this game to be a 1-point game. Really nice block from Crystal.
Yeah, so she obviously went there to block so he can't hit her out of the 7.
Exactly, yeah. He was like imagining the line his disc would need to take to clear that 7 out.
Impossible.
And she put her disc in the way.
So here he's just going to go for points as opposed to
Well,
trying
but you
to
can't just go for an open point. Like I said, a point without a block isn't really worth anything.
All right.
Because your opponent can just knock it out. So what he's going to do is try to score on an 8 on the left or a 7 on the left and hide behind that yellow disc up front. And that way, if he gets a point, but she won't be able to clear it out, and she'll be just sort of like resigned to take her hammer on the open court. His last 2 attempts at this curve left. And this one does not curve left. Nasty hide. That was incredible. Also, she can maybe clip it a little bit if she drills it down the center line, but she might knock that black disc into her own too. So
yeah, of course.
She might bump the yellow into the black. Highest percentage is score on the right, but it looks like she's lining up for something fancy here. So I'm really, really curious. Oh, baby. She's going for knocking it out. Oh, she gets the 10.
That's a ton.
I did not see that coming.
Wow.
So she gets the 17 to his 8. So she gained 9 points.
Yeah.
I thought she was trying to maybe knock his disc left and roll hers right in the 8, which is really hard. But instead she goes for the 10, which is a really hard shot. And actually that was genius because the reason she did that is now she's only down 7. If she had just made the 8, she would have been down 9.
Okay.
And, like the biggest scoring areas on the board are 8s and 7s. So it's much better to be down 7 instead of down 9 because making a 10 is not easy. You don't want to, have to do it.
Yeah,
so she
it
gets the
looks very
10.
hard.
Instead of being down 9, she's down 7. And there are 4 frames left. So this is this is everything that I hope this match would be. Like really great shot making, really high pressure situations that they're making incredible shots. This has been awesome. So I think she, still sort of sticking with the Tampa mindset, a little bit deeper than she wanted, but I think she'll take it. The reason why you want a little bit further up towards the tip of the 10 distance is to give yourself more space to get those angles and hide behind.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Really nice clear from Paul. So 4 frames left. They each have 2 hammers. She switches up to a St. Pete. That looks perfect. A little bit deeper than she wants, but that's pretty fine. She has a lot of space to hide behind for her if he doesn't clear this. Yeah, so he's going to try to clear it hard again. Clears it hard. Clears it really nicely. Yeah, crowd is cheering, man. If he clears well and makes hammers, all he needs to do is just ride this lead out. It's only 7, but just play consistently, not let her get back in this game just by clearing, scoring hammers. So that one's in, I believe Larry said. So I don't think he's going to kitchen it. I think he's just going to blast it and try to clear it out. So he's lining up. Yeah, shoots it really hard. And he whiffs to the right. Hard, though. There's something with that line where if you start at the center, all the way to the left in Paul's starting area, that's called the 1 spot. It's close to the center.
All right.
There's something where in that line, I saw a couple instances where it curved right in the last game. And that one, he missed by a lot, so he probably just missed it. But there's definitely something weird on the court there where it curves right a little bit. And now Crystal's trying to decide, do I block it up or do I put a score on the right? She's taking a second. She's thinking about it. She's doing a little math in her head. I mean, her 2 options are put a high 8, put an 8 in front of it and make him have a really hard hammer, or just block it up and hope he misses on the right side of the board. And I think she opts for this block that looks really nice. He could maybe start from the outside and get at it, but I don't think the angle is such where he can score. So I think, and he might miss left like he's been doing on these hides and clip that block up front and then have her score 8. So the higher percentage, I think, is score on the right side. But if Paul thinks he has a line on it, he's going to go for it. it's just interesting to see if he will correct for the fact that the last couple attempts curved left. Yeah, he's going for it. I would never go for this. I would, and he gets it. Really nice shot.
Wow.
I would have just taken the open court, but he must have felt like hyper confident on that line.
So they're obviously aware that this court each court is like a little bit different as far as how it moves.
Yeah, like the slope of it. We call it drift, but it's really like the slope of different sections of the court. Actually, you started golfing recently. The best analogy is putting in golf, where on a green, if you could see it sloping and you want to get to the hole, you got to aim like 3 feet to the right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here, but you can't visually see it. So you learn throughout the match through trial and error and through your warm-up shots how much over you need to aim to account for those sort of like imperceivable changes in slope on the court.
Now, do you notice it more often with indoor or outdoor as far as issues with the court?
It's sort of both, and it's sort of dependent. So the courts here, a lot of them don't have a lot of drift. But other outdoor courts can have a lot of drift. It's really just like case by case, depending on how they were constructed. I mean, the Brooklyn Club is like on the Gowanus Canal, which is like an incredibly polluted, marshy wasteland that they just rezoned and are building giant condos on, believe it or not. So like the ground is always moving because like it's right on a canal, and also there's a bunch of construction happening where they're like driving pile drivers in to make not skyscrapers, but you know what I mean. So the ground is like very, very drifty and very, very pronounced. But actually there's courts in North Carolina that are outdoor that are known for being very drifty.
Well, you would think with the weather down here, we have...
Oh, she sticks it.
We have so many storms and the heat and everything, you would think that it would get warped quite often. So how often do they smooth these out?
I don't actually know that. I think they did it before the international tournament, so I think maybe every 5 to 10 years, is my guess. But you're right, like the elements here make the court a little bit less predictable than in an indoor court like Clearwater, where it's not exposed to the elements, it's not exposed to storms. So this is actually a huge shot, because last frame Crystal stole Paul's hammer. He didn't score on his hammer, and this is an opportunity where he can steal her hammer, and he gets the drift perfectly.
Oh, wow.
But it goes a little deep.
Ooh,
and it doesn't. It hits the back line. I mean, even if that scored, though, she could have got to it. He really wanted a disc more in like the 8 speed. So she has a second chance to clear her own out. Oh, she sticks again. Wow. So Paul with Hyde attempt number 2. And, I mean, he's still up 7, so he has the advantage, but there's only 3 frames left, and she has 2 hammer frames. So you think about it, like, she's expected to score her hammer this frame. Suddenly it's a tie game, or she's up 1 with only 2 frames left. So he needs this Hyde. Steal a hammer here, remain up with 2 frames left. Let's see if he can get this. All right, looks pretty good. Navigates the drift perfectly.
Oh.
The speed is looking all right.
Yeah.
It stops in a deep 7. Crowd's cheering, but that's not something to cheer. That is, she can go down the alley and score on that pretty easily. It's hard because a lot of the edges of these courts, where the alleys are, the drift is like a little less predictable. A lot of them drift towards the center line. But like she has a clear shot at this. She clears and replaces this. She ties it up with 2 frames left. She kitchens it. She's up. I personally wouldn't go for the kitchen just because the softer you shoot, the more it drifts. Let's see if she can get it. She navigates the block. She rolls onto the back line. Like I said, a lot of these courts on the very edge, they curve towards the center line, and that's exactly what happened. Her disc curved in, got his out, but hit it too far to the right where she didn't stay in points.
I mean, it's kind of wild that just like this minimal touching of it, and it you would think that it would stop, and it just keeps going.
That's the beads, baby.
Yeah.
The beads takes away all the friction on the court, and it makes it where you really have to have that finesse. Whereas in Brooklyn, the surface is a little bit rougher, there's no beads. You hit it something like straight-ish on, it's going to stay there. All right, 2 frames left. Paul is up 7. 2 frames for Paul to be a 2-time Mirror Lake Championship winner. 2 times in 3 years, which is like absolutely unbelievable. Oh man, he can like taste it right now. He's been playing since like 2016 or 2017, I want to say.
And what
I
about
think
her?
2016. She's only been playing for like a couple years, but she is like so into it. She is like obsessed. She travels. She went up to Texas and played in a national tournament in Texas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's like I said, she won 2 national tournaments in the last 2 months. She is getting to be one of the best players here.
It's amazing to make it to the finals in any sport, and only playing for 2 years is pretty
Especially
impressive.
with 200 people, like the odds of making it to the top of a 200-person field. really, really hard to do. Paul stuck the clear. It's going to be hard to hide behind because of how deep it is, how like far into the scoring area, but she's going for it. The drift, I think, is in her favor a little bit. She needs a 7 tucked right behind that black disc. That looks a little bit hard. She might kitchen herself. Ooh. Oh, my gosh.
And she did.
That is a heartbreaker. Oh, man. So if you're Paul, what do you do here real quick?
Put in a block, obviously.
Beautiful.
So she
Excellent
doesn't,
call. So she can't clear it out.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, you're playing the defensive game. You want to make it so she stays in the kitchen and you gain 10 points this frame, or maybe even more if you score your hammer. And really, like, she gave you the opportunity. You want to, like, seal the deal this frame. The only thing you don't want to do is shoot it too deep and allow her to clear herself out of the kitchen using your disc. So
yeah,
that's
what
why
I was actually just
Paul's
going
to try to put this tip of the 10. He does not go for that. He tries to bump himself in, which is like, he gets it really nicely. That is like a really, really risky strategy because if he missed that, she could have cleared herself out. He must have felt really confident on that. It makes total sense though. Like in his mind, I bump it, and that way she can't use my disc to clear herself out.
Right.
So that's what he's thinking, and he gets the shot, but like still very risky. And yeah, this becomes an interesting frame. So she's kind of...
And she almost blocked herself now because...
She kind of blocked herself, yeah, but she also could maybe knock that gently and get 2 8s out of it, splitting it side to side.
Okay.
So I don't know. If Paul blocks the tip of the 10 too, she could maybe still go down the left side. I don't know. This is a really tricky frame. So yeah, he puts the tip of the 10. Oh, he scores the 10. Is that in?
Well, we're about to find out.
That. Instead of blocking the tip of the 10. Wait, is that 2? Oh, it's just the 1, so the 10's not in. And Paul's going to look at it and see how close it is. If he wants to request a second call. Yeah, not in.
All right.
Larry is offended. So she's still in the kitchen there. I think Larry's in the way. But yeah, she's still in the kitchen. So her move now is to try to go down the left side, clip that 8, and get 2 8s out of it, which she like needs this to minimize her losses, and she does not get it. So Paul's holding on to a 17-point lead right now if he doesn't make his hammer. If he makes his hammer, it's going to be 24 or 25-point lead going into the last frame, which is like kind of insurmountable. Yeah. So if Paul makes this, he like kind of wins the game. This is huge. I don't know, looks pretty good. Maybe a little too soft. It's curving right, and he knocks her in. Oh, did you see how much that disc curved?
Yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah.
That was looking perfect, and then it just picked up an area and hooked right. And that hurts for Paul. Like, to go from putting the game away to now leaving the window open. I mean, he's still in a good spot. He's up 17 in the last frame, but it's her hammer.
It's been really close.
Yeah, this has been a great match.
That kitchen's kind of screwed her over on his first points there.
Yeah, it screwed her over, but she kind of like dodged a bullet by being left in points.
Yeah.
What's going on, Sammy? You want to say hi to the people at home?
Hi, everyone at home.
What do you think Malort tastes like? Describe the flavor of Malort. You just go, like delicious? All right, I'll take it.
It was actually more of, I was pondering, but that's about right.
I actually love Malort, yeah. Yeah, Sammy's from Chicago, one of the nicest people in the Chicago League community, also on the Illinois Shuffleboard Association board. But enough about that. Let's get back to this game. Last frame, Paul does not have the hammer. Crystal has the hammer, and Paul is up 17. So Crystal needs to put this on. The only way she's winning is if she puts an 8 on, Paul doesn't clear it, and she can kitchen it and score. And she goes for a 7 on the right, which she gets. So she's hoping that Paul sticks it and she can kitchen him. That's the only way she's getting back in this. 2 8s doesn't do it. That's only 16. A 10 and an 8 or a 10 and a 7 does it. Really nice clear number 1 from Paul. He needs to do that. If he does that 2 more times, he wins the match. So Crystal's going on the board on the left now. Really smart move, trying to vary where she's putting those discs.
Right.
This is called kitchen bait, by the way, because she's putting a disc on, hoping that he sticks it, and she could then kitchen him, put him in the negative 10. So let's see if we can get clear number 2. He does not get it. He does not get it, and he's in the 8. So Crystal has a chance to kitchen this and, tie this up or take a 1-point lead potentially. Oh, man. She absolutely needs this. If she doesn't get this, the game's over pretty much. That's too hard. Yeah, too hard. All right, but she stayed in the 8. So Paul's going to clear it. You know what I mean? Some people would say, like, block the tip of the 10 because her only 2 ways of winning are to score 10 or to kitchen him if he sticks it. So some people block the tip of the 10. Definitely not the right shot. Clear it out. One nice clear wins the game for you.
Okay.
Clears it hard, and he gets it. He gets it clear. That's it.
Brooklyn, baby!
There is no way for her to get 18 points or 17 points. Like, she
Right.
can't kitchen that and score 7. The game's over. Paul Assad, 2 times in 3 years, Mirror Lake champion. Absolutely unreal.
Yeah,
I don't know how he
really
does
impressive.
it. He tells me, he's like, I don't know why you don't win every year, Jeff. It's because it's really hard, Paul. You just make it look easy.
Yeah.
Really nice play from Crystal. Crystal
played great.
earns the round of applause from the crowd. As mentioned, she won the national tournament last week. She's an amazing player.
Yeah, she played great. I mean, that was really, really close.
This is an incredible, incredible match. So yeah, we're gonna sign off. I think we're gonna do a post-game interview with my buddy Paul here. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Sean, for.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
What's
This was so
your
much
one
fun.
takeaway from this match? What did you learn?
Well, I don't know. I learned that clearly, as you can see and hear, the crowd's really into this. So, anybody that's watching right now that's interested should really just give it a shot. Go down to Royal Palms, give it a shot if you're in Brooklyn, and check it out.
St. Pete Shuffle Friday
Yeah.
night. Join the league here. It's like a magical set of communities. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon in the post-game interview.